Hi everyone, hope you're doing really well and enjoying this first day after the second national lockdown as we have restrictions eased just a little bit on us. I just want to read to you today from Isaiah chapter 40 verses 3 to 5. Listen, it's the voice of someone shouting, clear the way through the wilderness for the Lord. Make a straight highway through the wasteland for our God. Fill in the valleys and level the mountains and hills. Straighten the curves and smooth out the rough places. Then the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people will see it together. The Lord has spoken. It's Advent season again. As you can see, the top of the tree here in church. The Christmas tree has been put up and kindly decorated by. Thank you to Rose and Hayley and Leanne for that. And we look forward to inviting any of you who would like to come from this Sunday onwards when we reopen our church services. But of course, we are now in December, and December largely corresponds with the church season of Advent. And at Advent, we do two things. Firstly, the Advent season is a time for looking ahead to Christ's return in glory. It's a time when we particularly focus on the wonder of that great day of the Lord, when he comes back to judge the world, make all things right, and takes all those who have put their trust in him to the place prepared for them, where they will be with him forever. Times like this year, which of course has been especially difficult, heighten our awareness of the temporary nature of this world and the fragility of our lives. When difficulty comes, it does make us more aware of these things. And of course, there's a tragic nature to the events of this year. The repercussions both of the coronavirus, but also the repercussions of the measures put in place to prevent its spread, which we're going to, I think, suffer from for a few years to come. It's a tragedy, of course, but it's also, and it should be, a wake-up call. We need to be ready to stand before God the Judge, whether that happens when we pass from this life by dying, or when he comes again. Of course, Advent, we look to his return in glory. And we are called to do two things. Firstly, we're called to make sure we're in a right place before God. We're in a right place before God if we've accepted Jesus Christ as Lord, have turned from our wrongdoings, and have come under his authority. That's the first thing we need to do to make sure that day is a great day, not a dreadful day. And secondly, once we've made that decision, we need to be living lives that honour him consistently, that we won't be embarrassed when he comes. We won't be embarrassed standing before him. He won't be disappointed with us. In the New Testament, there's various places which talk of us needing to get ready. Jesus talking about the 10 bridesmaids or 10 virgins, some of whom were ready, some of whom weren't. Paul speaks of this in Romans chapter 13 and 1 Thessalonians 5. Are we walking in light or darkness? Are we ready for him to come? There won't be a great warning, he will just come. And also, of course, in 2 Peter chapter 3, we're reminded to be on our guard, to be ready for that great day. Are you ready? Have you accepted Jesus as Lord? And if you have, brilliant, that's the main thing. But are you living a life which honours him? Are you prepared to meet him? That's the first aspect of Advent. The second aspect of Advent also looks forward to Christmas, which will be upon us in just over 3 weeks' time. Of course, we celebrate the wonder of God being born among us as a baby 2,000 years ago, and the amazing fact that is, that God, the King of the universe, had come as a frail baby. At Advent, we remember the Old Testament prophets, such as Isaiah, who foretold the birth of Jesus. Foretold all sorts of things about Jesus' life. Not just Isaiah, but a number of prophets. We also remember John the Baptist, whose job it was to be a herald and a preparer for Christ's arrival. John the Baptist knew Jesus was to be the star of the show. He had a part to play, yes, but the star, the one who should receive all the glory, was the Lord himself. John's role was to defer to Jesus and to give him the glory. And that's the same with us. John said in the Gospel of the same name. It's a different John, but John the Baptist said in John 3 verse 30, he, Jesus, must become greater and greater, and I must become less and less. John was being goaded by people, I think, because he was losing disciples or followers to Jesus. And there were people saying, well, aren't you jealous? Aren't you annoyed about this? And John said, well, in a human sense, maybe, but I know my place. I know that I'm a sideshow. I'm just a bit part player. He's the main man. And if people go from me to him, then that I'm doing my bit. In the same way, we have all sorts of roles to play in our lives. And in our own consciousness, it's hard to accept that we might not be the star of the show because, of course, our minds are focused primarily, of course, on ourselves. It'd be crazy any other way. But we, rather like the soldier who goes to war knowing that he might well die for a bigger cause, he's not living for himself at that moment. He's living for the country. The soldiers that make great sacrifices in times of war are potentially giving their lives for a bigger purpose, for their country to be kept safe, for their country to, for freedom to be kept safe, to enlarge their borders or to keep their lands. It might be all sorts of reasons, but the bigger picture is more than that one life. For us, we owe God everything. He is our creator. He is our redeemer. He is our sustainer. He's given his life for us. He's shown us the way to live of self-sacrifice. He calls us for us to take up our crosses daily and follow him. He also gives us gifts and skills and abilities and a certain amount of brain power, some more than others. But we're to do those things in all aspects of our life, but particularly in Christian ministry, for his glory. And so whatever we're doing, it might be sweeping the floor of the church, it might be photocopying service orders, it might be preaching. It doesn't matter which of those sorts of jobs it is or any other jobs. It's for the glory of God and not for our own fame. We need to work and live in humility, remembering it's all for the glory of God and not for our own betterment. We serve a bigger purpose. And Christmas, of course, this year is not going to be the same as usual years. I know the government's kindly relaxed restrictions on Christmas itself. Some of you might agree with that, some of you may not, of course. But so some things will be relaxed, but it's not going to be the same as other years. Clearly, it's a very different year this year. But rather than look on the negatives, what we're going to miss out on, whether it's not going to be quite as special as usual or quite as glorious as usual, maybe that's a good thing in many ways. If that means there's less commercialism, not the same sort of razzmatazz and overindulgence and greed, and instead there's more focus on what it is really about. Remember, the first Christmas was as low-key as it gets. Very simple and very humble. The angels made big play of Christ being born, didn't they? They lit up the skies. But if you think of the people who were there, Mary and Joseph and some shepherds who were seen as the lowest of the low in society, it was very, very humble, meagre, and quite hard indeed. And if our focus turns to a simple remembrance, celebration, and worship of the one who came to us, and it's more about that this year because we don't have some of the other trappings, then surely that in many ways is a good thing. I know we won't be able to invite people quite in the same way to hear the good news in our churches. Maybe able to do a little bit of that, but it won't be quite the same opportunity, and that is a disappointment. But let's look at the positives. Let's look at going back to the basics, giving God the glory and remembering who it's all about, who deserves the glory, and what Christmas really means, not what the world has made of it. As the final verse of In the Bleak Midwinter goes, and I'll leave you with this. What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would give a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what I can, I give him. Give my heart. Let's focus through this December season, this Advent season, as we build up to Christmas. Let's focus on doing that, remembering he alone deserves all the glory. God bless you all.